I'm Rob Nichols for WarGen. The date today is the 21st of April 2018. We're in Stroud and we'll be discussing the experience of Sheila Nichols, whose maiden name was Darby, and what they were doing, who lived in Bristol during the war and also was evacuated. Short spell.
Short spell, 2 years.
2 years. Okay. Sheila, when and where were you born?
In Bristol, 14th of May 1934.
And tell me about your parents. What did your father do?
He was an engineer in a factory.
And what did your mother do?
She sewed. She would say she was a bespoke tailoress.
Did your father serve in the First World War?
First World War.
Did you have brothers and sisters, and if so, where were you in the pecking order?
I was the eldest, and my brother John was 10 years younger than me.
So was he born after the war?
44 he was born.
Did you have a happy childhood?
Well, apart from the war, yes.
What was it like growing up where you did?
Okay. We had a nice house and a nice neighbourhood. And, yeah.
What were your interests as a child?
I don't, nothing special. Used to go to the allotment with my father, so I was interested in gardens and things, but nothing special. But I was only 6 when the war started.
The next question, can you remember the build-up to the war?
No.
Can you remember the outbreak of the war?
Well, I remember we were on holiday when the war broke out. But I've only learned that. I vaguely remember the holiday, but...
Where were you on holiday to?
9 weeks.
Okay.
With Chris Ashman's parents.
Can you recall the Battle of Britain?
No.
Did any of your family join the armed forces?
No, I don't think so, because Father was in the reserved occupation.
Did any of your family join the Home Guard?
No.
Was the war a shock to your system, to the system?
Well, no, because I wasn't really aware. The implications of it were, I didn't understand.
So did you ever worry what might happen to you?
No.
Tell me about camaraderie in your community.
Well, I think people neighbours were more neighbourly than they are now. I went to Sunday school and things like that.
What were your day-to-day living conditions like?
Okay. We lived in a comfortable house. We always had food on the table, and I was looked after well.
Can you describe a typical day in the life on the home front?
Not really. No, well, I wasn't very old.
Okay. What was the food like?
I imagine it was. It must have been all right. I think I wasn't old enough to discriminate about things. You know, it was what was there.
Did you ever go hungry?
No.
Did you get enough to drink?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Can you remember any particular funny incidents?
Funny? No.
Can you remember any particular tragic incidents?
Well, does that mean? People being killed?
Possibly, or...
Yeah. Well, I know the man next door when the bomb fell on the house next door,
Mm.
he was killed.
Mm.
Apart from that, I don't, and children's fathers at school who were in the war, they were killed. But apart from that, no.
So what happened when the bomb dropped on the house next door? What do you remember of that?
Well, I remember I was under the bed was made up under the stairs, and I was in there, and I woke up with pieces of things falling on my head, and the bits that were stuck to the stairs, and crying, and and I had a new doll, and things had fallen off the dresser, and a cup had fallen onto this doll's head and broken it. So trivial things. And we couldn't stay in the house, so we went down with my mother to the house, a neighbour's house down the road, where we spent the night.
Right.
And then we went down, because the house wasn't livable then, we went down and stayed in my Uncle Harold's house, because they were away, evacuated.
Oh, okay. What about, I remember you telling me about, because your dad was working down in town and the bombs were falling between you and where the bombs were. What happened then?
Well, that was before we were bombed out, because we lived, Father couldn't get home because the blade started too early. And so Mum and I had gone next door, because there was an air raid, and that's what we did. And we stayed there till the air raid had finished. And I remember being lifted up onto the dividing wall, and the whole of the sky was red, and from the fires. And Mother, "Oh, Ken, Ken," I'm running up the road, and somebody running to get her because she was after find Father.
All right.
And I think that was several nights. That was before we were bombed out.
So, because you were in Hallfield.
We lived in Longfield Road.
Yeah. And where was the factory where Grandpa worked?
We're down in town.
Yeah.
Down in the centre of in Old Market, Midland Road.
How did you cope with fear? But I don't think you didn't really have fear.
I don't remember.
Where were you when the war ended?
I went back in a house that we had, that was given, I think people that were bombed out were rehoused in corporation houses, and we had one of those.
Well, like the prefabs?
No, it was a proper house, Sefton Park Road, like the house really that we had been bombed.
Well, the questions are sort of going on to sort of end of the war, but what can you remember about being evacuated?
Everything.
Yeah.
Nothing nice.
Okay.
Not
Well,
really.
tell me about that.
Well, I remember, I think a couple of days before we were bombed out, Mother talking to a neighbour and saying she would never let me be evacuated. But when we didn't have a home, she said she and Father were anxious that I should be safe. So I was evacuated, and we went to Ashley Down School early in the morning and got on a coach, and we went to take a drink, and Mother somehow had given me an orange, but I wasn't allowed to have the orange because that was deemed to be a drink. And then we caught the train at Stapleton Road, and I remember catching the train. Then I remember being in a coach, which must have been from Cheddar, to Axford,
Mm.
and there was a reservoir on the way with things on it to stop planes landing.
Right.
They looked, and we thought we'd come to the seaside. We hadn't. And then we were taken out of the. Got to the school in Axford, and we sat around, and gradually children were picked and given to their foster parents. And I went with another girl across the road, and there was and before apparently I'd said to my mother, I didn't mind being evacuated as long as it wasn't with a fat lady. Well, there was a very thin lady and a fat lady stood on the door, and the woman who took me over, she'd said to the grandma, turned out to be the grandma, which one do you want?
Mm.
And it wasn't me, so I'm left with a fat lady who was called Auntie Mary, and I lived with her and her husband in the house.
Mm.
But I used to, Mother and Father used to come down once a month in a bus, and I used to think if I could get through the emergency door in the back of the bus, I could go home.
Mm.
It's not. There were nice things, of course, but by and large, it wasn't so good.
Was it because you were homesick, or they didn't treat you very well? Or?
Well, I think I was homesick. I wasn't treated badly.
Mm.
It just was different.
Mm.
And there was a girl there as well from London, but she went back, and she was killed in a blitz. I think it was just homesick.
Mm.
Well, I wasn't badly treated, but I was ill quite a lot of the time.
And you had pneumonia?
No, I had pneumonia when I got home. I just had bronchitis and things and various things. But when I remembered the first cold sore I had, I was painted with that purple stuff and put down in a corner in the classroom and not allowed to near anybody. I was infectious. But, yeah.
So how long was that? 2 years?
2 years, yeah, just short of 2 years. And I don't know why I came home, probably because the bombing had stopped in Bristol.
Okay. What can you remember about the end of the war?
Oh, because the house we lived in there backed onto Muller's orphanage, which the service people were in, and I woke up to hear everybody shouting and hurraying and being happy, and Mum coming up and saying the war was over. So, and then we had street parties, and so I remember that. Although, yeah, I suppose I do remember that.
Yeah. So what was the general reaction? I guess just describe it really.
Oh, well, relief. I'm hoping that things would be normal.
Do you have any photographs of yourself from the war?
I've got photographs of the street parties.
Have you?
But and they're only,
Yeah.
this is the eye of faith that I can point myself at. But no, you didn't take photographs really then, not much, except perhaps school photos. But no, I don't remember. I'd have to go and look. No.
Do you often think about the war?
No. Not unless I see it. I mean, I don't sit here and think about the war, but if I saw it on the television, I would remember. And then there are things that people say that you will jog your memory.
Mm.
No, don't weigh heavily or anything.
Anything else about the war that you remember? You think we're done?
Probably done, I suppose.
Okay.
Oh, I used to go to collecting shrapnel.
Oh yeah,
I
that's it.
had a little box, a little tin box, and I used to go up the road and collect shrapnel. And I wasn't allowed to go up to the park because there was an area, a barrage balloon up there.
Right.
But I wasn't allowed up there. But yeah, the shrapnel I had for a long time. And going in the shelters at school. I must have been at school. When they bombed the, used to be daylight bombs when they bombed the BAC.
Right.
And I heard your father saying about the thing on Purdown, the big gun on Purdown.
Oh, the guns, yeah.
Well, my dad's sister, Auntie Ethel, was married to one of the soldiers up there, so she used to come and stay with us so she could go and see him. So that was incidental, really.
Okay, I'll stop it there. Thank you.